Americans, war was the only strategy to pursue in light of 9/11. Crush the enemy, and also remind would-be enemies that American military force reigned supreme and existed to ensure the supremacy of the nation, its ideals, and its people. Not everyone agreed with the president, however, with critics questioning his very terminology, arguing that terrorism was too elusive a term to serve as a descriptor of a war. The point was that since terrorism could erupt at any time or in any place in the future, a battle against it would lead to a forever war with no end in sight. Barack Obama actually dropped the designation of the conflict as a war against terrorism in 2009, when he said we were not fighting a tactic, but specific networks of enemies who sought to harm America. In time, Bush's forceful moves would provoke a much more powerful response, however, than a contest over nomenclature or wartime objectives. His global war would actually precipitate a massive domestic quarrel, grounded not only in political issues, but in deeply personal matters and private emotions that have yet to be fully captured or understood. Millions of citizens would tap their patriotic instincts to support the idea of a war against evil in the world, but many equally patriotic Americans would question vehemently the premise that a war on terror was even justified. Ultimately, the conflict would become a fight not simply over naming rights or threats to the nation, but over how the encounter with terrorism should be understood. Patriotism was central to this intense discussion, because it offered a framework in which people could imagine their relationship to the nation to which they belonged and that was now under attack. In 2002, President Bush even declared that September 11th would henceforth be known as Patriot Day, a time in which the heroic sacrifices of first responders and the nation's soldiers would be commemorated in order to inspire others. Patriotic myths and rituals have always been important during episodes of state-sponsored violence because of the cognitive power they possess to help shape feelings and beliefs. They can rally populations to a cause and transform the horrors of warfare into mythical tales of valor and heroism. The language of patriotism can serve as a cleansing agent capable of wiping away or justifying, at least on the surface, the cruel realities of death, trauma, sorrow, and, less understood, the utter sense of confusion over what is taking place. Patriotic symbols and narratives have the ability to turn tales of vengeance into love stories and family tragedies into chronicles of exemplary service, renovations necessary to retain allegiances in difficult times. Yet patriotism is a layered concept that attempts to weave together dissimilar strands of thoughts and feelings. Patriotism must expand its ethic of love to embrace not only political relationships, but human connections as well. Love of country as an abstract thought must be interlaced with bonds of affection for particular people a citizen knows, neighbors, or even brothers in arms that serve in the same battle group, and even strangers. As much as patriotism reveres love, it can also foster fear and hatred for those the nation seeks to vanquish or marginalize. And, importantly, it needs to justify why its celebration of loving relationships can lead to so much pain and sorrow. Inevitably, patriotism faces the extremely difficult task of tempering or even erasing the effects of traumatic ruptures war brings to people's lives. It is never a given that the connection between the love one feels for a nation and the love one feels for other people can be sustained when the former leads to the obliteration or disfigurement of beloved friends or relatives. Thus, parents, often called Gold Star mothers or fathers, who confront the remains of a son or daughter killed in battle, may or may not be willing to wave the flag. The merger of private and public affection, a necessary fusion in any patriotic ideal, is never guaranteed. Because patriotism's rhetorical project is so ambitious, it takes many forms, and this book focuses on the two that are most prominent as well as the most divisive.